I don't want to live without you, Marge.
Okay.
And today, we'll see Homer get multiple plastic surgeries to improve his looks, but he ends up having a nightmare inspired by the Hunchback of Notre Dame about the effects of the surgeries. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a hospital.
A smart, successful woman like you deserves the very best.
You also remembered I like flattery.
Do you like guys who are attractive?
Today's story begins at the comic book store. Bart is flipping through one comic after another, but he can't find anything new. He already knows how all of them end. Then, suddenly, he spots a Wolverine comic with its metal claws out. As soon as he opens a page, the Wolverine claws pop out, hitting Milhouse, who was standing nearby, right in the face. As soon as Bart closes the comic, Milhouse starts crying, and his tears fall on the comic. The store owner takes the comic and says Milhouse ruined it, and now he's got to buy it. The owner checks the price in his ledger and tells him it's $25. Milhouse is bummed out and says that's all the money he has to celebrate Greek Orthodox Easter with his friend. But the owner just grumbles about him sharing personal stuff. Bart steps in to defend his friend, complaining about how the owner is always so rude to kids. The owner, even ruder now, tells them to find another comic store to buy their comics. He points to different spots in town, but none of them have comics. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, a new comic store opens across the street.
Philip K. Dick. It can't be. It's as if Superman moved to Gotham City.
Which he did in World's Finest Comics number 94. See?
Martin joins in the conversation, and the comic guy gets even ruder, finally kicking all the kids out of his store. So, they all head to the grand opening of the new comic store. As all the kids stand in front of the new store, the owner appears, introduces himself as Milo, and welcomes everyone. Before they enter, Milo hands out Japanese candies to each kid. All the kids are excited, except Lisa, because hers is dolphin-flavored. Milo then announces that Tom Jones is going to perform for everyone and hopes they enjoy some Korean music. As he starts the music, all the kids are allowed into the store. While everyone is checking out the shelves, the owner sings, dances, shows off, and tosses his products around for the kids to grab. After the show ends, Lisa finds a book on a shelf that she's only heard about in her French classes at school. She starts reading it, and it's about a boy and his dog walking through a building. But they soon find out they're actually on a rocket heading to hit some important place. Just as Lisa turns the page, she accidentally tears it and feels terrible. But Milo shows up and says it's no big deal because comics are meant to be read and enjoyed, not just collected. This statement surprises all the kids, who think he's super cool. But Bart is suspicious, thinking Milo might be too cool, and starts asking him questions about his knowledge of superheroes. So he decides to ask Milo, between two superheroes, who's the strongest. Milo begins comparing their strength based on what they've done in their stories. After mentioning that it's a tough choice, he asks Bart for his opinion. Bart is surprised to be asked for his opinion, given his bad experiences with the old comic book seller, and now he's starting to doubt if he could ever have a good relationship again.
Wow, I was in such a bad relationship with my ex-comic book guy, I'd forgotten how good it could be.
The next day, Marge takes Bart and Lisa to the door of the new comic store. As soon as they go in, she sees a life-size cutout of Wonder Woman. Immediately, Marge starts pretending to be Wonder Woman. Right then, the town bullies show up and watch her. Marge compares her body to the cutout and starts commenting on her body measurements increasing. But the bullies disagree, saying she looks better than many superheroes out there. They insult one of their moms and start fighting among themselves. Meanwhile, Marge says she needs to hit the gym before her measurements get any bigger. When one of the bullies mentions he wishes his mom said cool stuff like that, the others chime in with more comments, and they start brawling again.
I wish my mom said cute things like that.
She can't because she's depressed.
Shut up!
Inside the new store, Lisa is waiting in line for an autograph and mentions how happy she is with a number of alternative comic book authors there. As she gets closer to get her autograph, she says she's thrilled to know about the story he wrote because it made her realize she wasn't so alone. However, the author doesn't pay much attention to her comment. He says his real dream is to draw Batman someday. He shows off how good he is at drawing belts and mentions he could make Batman's look pretty cool. But Lisa doesn't seem too interested in the conversation. Next, it's Bart's turn to get an autograph from his favorite author, Alan Moore. He talks about how Moore wrote his favorite issues of Radioactive Man. As soon as Alan starts asking a bunch of deep questions about the story, Bart explains he doesn't actually read the words. He's only interested in the parts where the characters punch each other and how the main character's suit is skin tight. This makes Alan roll his eyes. After signing the comic, Milhouse pops up asking him to sign an old DVD too. At that point, Alan starts freaking out, saying the industry is sucking the creativity out of everyone and that they're fools for not seeing it. The author next to him asks him to chill out, so Alan sits down, grabs a little Lulu comic, and starts reading it, happy with the simple drawings and storylines. But everything gets interrupted by the comic store guy who barges in, asking for everyone's attention, and drops a bomb about Milo, saying he's shady because he's got a girlfriend. As soon as the girl named Strawberry introduces herself and shows off her purse, the comic store guy announces that he's going to start selling illegal stuff in his store. At this point, Milo questions if he's really going to do that to the kids, commenting that the comic store guy is going way too far. Bart then tells the comic store guy to face reality, saying Milo is the comic book store owner the whole town deserves. After all this, the comic book guy seems to be giving in, but he surprises everyone by pulling out a sword and starts attacking the store, destroying both collectible toys and comics. The authors there comment that the store is in trouble and decide to activate comic book heroes mode, going after the comic book guy and landing multiple hits on him.
How do you like this punchline?
They finish with a triple hit that sends him flying into a shelf of hats in the store. In the next scene, we see Marge visiting a gym in Los Angeles. There, she's introduced to various groups, and the receptionist shows her around the gym. At one point, she notices there's a class for mothers and children, and upon seeing a mom being punched by her kid, Marge doesn't seem too keen on the idea. Then, she heads to the treadmill, but has a bit of trouble turning it on and figuring out how it works. When she finally gets it going, she finds it strange how hard it is to walk and thinks everyone else must be struggling too. But when she looks to the side, she sees two couples dancing on the treadmill while they work out, which bums her out, making her quit the exercise and head to the shower. While she's showering peacefully, some people make comments, and Marge realizes everyone can see her stall, which makes her embarrassed. As soon as she leaves the gym, she thinks about how she just wants to find a gym made just for women. Looking ahead, she sees the comic book guy's store closed, and an idea pops into her mind. Sometime later, Marge opens her own gym, where the rules are clear. No men, no mirrors, no cell phones, and definitely no shame. Homer, there to show his support, questions why women would want a gym when there are no men to judge them. As he walks out the door, he sees a huge line even though the place isn't even open yet, and decides to go back inside. He tells Marge they're going to be rich and might even start a better new family. Once the place opens, the gym gets completely packed, and everyone starts praising the space and the equipment. When Marge goes to the counter, Lisa mentions the schedule is booked for months and that they might need to open a new location. They start thinking about finding an empty place to rent. In the next scene, we see Krusty's restaurant closed, about to be turned into a new unit of Marge's gym. Meanwhile, Krusty is on the sidewalk, crying over losing his business and complaining that the labor department shut down the restaurant for negligence. A woman shows up, complaining that Krusty had promised to propose to her but never did. Instead, he just kept organizing burgers.
Mr. Krusty came to my village. He said he would marry me. No ring, just fill apple pies all day.
Soon after, Marge starts appearing on the covers of newspapers and magazines as the new entrepreneur on the rise. With her business booming, she's invited to Opal's show, where she becomes one of the guests for creating a gym just for women. When the host welcomes her, she thanks Marge for creating the Shakes gym, and the host's boyfriend also thanks her. The whole audience starts whistling at this comment, and when Marge asks the host when she'll be proposed to, the host quickly changes the subject and starts hamming out cuckoo clocks to the whole audience. Later, at a resort for women entrepreneurs, Marge and Homer are in a hotel room. Homer comments that he's enjoying the business trips Marge is taking. Spotting a TV remote, he's happy to be in a hotel that trusts him, but quickly hides the remote in his suitcase. And in the afternoon, Homer is by the pool, celebrating the fact that his wife is funding all the luxuries he's enjoying. Soon, 3 other men show up and welcome Homer. When he mentions his wife created a women-only gym, one of them talks about what his wife created and mentions his expensive car. Homer tries to show off, saying he's still deciding on which car he wants, but the 3 start making comments implying that his wife will soon upgrade to a newer model, using it as a metaphor.
You better decide soon, because I have a feeling your wife will also be getting a new model.
Yeah, she'll be trading up.
And they're not talking about cars.
They should explain they weren't talking about a car, but that they were their wives' second husbands. As soon as their wives hit the peak of their success, they decided to swap their fat husbands for them, who were more fit. Homer, refusing to accept the comment, claims that Marge would never replace him because he's the anchor that keeps their marriage strong. The 3 approach Homer and start listing the signs he should watch out for to know if Marge was considering replacing him. The first sign would be her replacing all her wardrobe with fancier clothes. Next, she should start avoiding talking about her day, and finally, she'd show a suspicious amount of joy. Homer warns that would never happen and runs after his wife. As soon as Homer gets to the room, he sees Marge with new clothes and putting on perfume, realizing that was the first sign she might leave him. Remembering the second sign was her not wanting to talk about her day, he decides to ask how it went and insists a little. Marge starts to tell him, but it's Homer who doesn't show interest, preferring to watch new and different channels on TV. When Marge loses interest in telling, she decides to leave the room. Homer then remembers the third sign.
Are you happy and full of life?
I sure am.
Devastated, Homer laments, and while packing his suitcase, taking everything he can, he cries nonstop. In the hotel lounge, a big event is happening. While Marge chats with two other women, they comment on Marge's purse, saying it's old and advising her to replace it. Homer, who catches part of the conversation, thinks they're talking about him, so he jumps into the conversation and asks Marge to stay away from those women. This irritates her, making her decide to go to the successful women's bathroom. Desperate, Homer decides to ask the three men he talked to earlier for help, saying he doesn't want Marge to leave him because if that happened, he'd lose everything. One of the men approaches Homer and reveals he was his wife's first husband and shows a picture of what he looked like before and how he looks now. Homer, surprised, asks how he achieved such a transformation. The man reveals he just worked hard, exercised a lot, and followed a strict diet, cutting out fat and alcohol. Homer jots everything down in a notebook and believes the solution to his problems is to get a stomach reduction.
Got it. I know just what it'll take to hang on to Marge.
The next day, Homer is at a surgery clinic and talks to the doctor, who explains the bariatric surgery process. The doctor says they would place a band around his stomach, limiting him to only ingest liquids. Homer, feeling down, admits that even though he knows he's not the most handsome man, it used to be enough to help around the house, but now, that's not enough anymore. The doctor understands and offers to perform the surgery that very day. Before agreeing, Homer decides to check the bill and is shocked to see how cheap it is, causing him to faint. At dinner that night, Homer cuts a slice of pizza up looking sad. Lisa notices and asks if he's okay. Homer reveals to his kids that he underwent a special surgery to look more attractive for their mom. After Bart asks some questions, Homer gets frustrated and explains that he had a stomach reduction. He then cuts a small piece of pizza, blends it, and drinks it, commenting that all food now smells like vomit. Later that night, when Marge returns from work, she finds the room decorated. Homer appears, and she remarks that he remembered how she likes romance. After giving him some compliments, she's thrilled. When Homer reveals his new look, Marge is impressed by his transformation. She wants to take a closer look, but Homer hides his excess skin, trying to distract her until he finally turns off the lights. But as they get into bed, Marge feels something she thinks is the blanket, but is actually Homer's extra skin.
A smart, successful woman like you deserves the very best.
You also remembered I like flattery.
Do you like guys who are attractive?
The next day, Homer visits the doctor again and admits he's too embarrassed to show his body to his wife. He asks the doctor to perform all possible surgeries to achieve the perfect body, and the doctor agrees. In the operating room, as Homer is about to be anesthetized, the doctor asks him to count to 10. Homer then reveals he's drunk. Meanwhile, Marge is receiving an award from the mayor, with everyone in attendance. As she gets her card, Homer shows up to reveal his physique to everyone. It's then revealed his implants were made from socks. As he flexes, the mayor calls him a monster and asks everyone to prepare. The crowd starts shouting, calling Homer a monster, and chases after him. Homer grabs Marge and runs through the city streets.
Monster! Cut his heart out!
Eventually fleeing to the Notre Dame Tower, where the crowd waits outside. Inside the tower, Marge thanks Homer for trying to be more attractive for her, but she makes it clear that now she's successful. She's too good for him and wants a trophy husband. Homer starts crying, saying he doesn't want a life without her. As he climbs to the top of an opening, Marge decides to push him off.
I don't want to live without you, Marge.
Okay.
Surprisingly, Homer opens his eyes and realizing he's in the hospital, asks what's going on. Marge explains that the doctor had called her when Homer decided to undergo multiple crazy surgeries, and she refused to let him go through with them. Moreover, she had the bariatric surgery reversed, wanting him to stay just the way he was. Homer is relieved to find out it was all just a dream and that he wasn't actually a monster. Bart chimes in, saying the only person who thought he was a monster was the receptionist. Lisa comments that she hopes her dad learned his lesson. Homer agrees, saying he realized that plastic surgery was a mistake that didn't fix the problem but only made things worse. However, he believes that when plastic surgeries truly help people, everyone should definitely consider them. Ending the episode, Marge and Homer walk through the streets of Springfield as they leave the hospital. Homer wonders what his wife finds so irresistible about him, admitting she could probably find someone much better. Marge agrees but explains that every time she looks at him, she sees the same charming guy she fell in love with.
Well, there's nothing like a happy ending.
Holy heavens! Is that a meteor heading for the Earth?
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and comment. See you in the next videos.